When we heard about Clear Skye starting their own business, we were eager to take a look at the solutions they provided. Hands down, the process is 10 times easier than it was in the past.
To kind of integrate everything together was really the big driver for us to move to Clear Skye.
It took me about 10-15 minutes to sort of realize the value of this. The speed we can do it, and the ease of use we can do it is a great value for us.
I would say what used to take 2 weeks to set up, now we can run in about 2 hours.
Automation of it is tremendous.
You're building on that baseline of ServiceNow. You don't have to spend the time to create the workflows and the back-end infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. You can really focus more on how the processes work.
The cost to run this process manually versus using the Clear Skye product speaks for itself, and it's proved to be a big win across the org.
The Access people are surprised how easy it is.
I would put it up against all of the other management tools that I've seen out there.
The cost of Clear Skye paid for itself with the first attestation. It's been a win-win. I think if your future customers would do the same type of analysis, they would see the same kind of result.
My name is Luis Almeida. I am the Sales and Channel Alliances Leader for Clear Skye. And I want to thank every single one of you, our customers, our partners, our future customers, our competitors, and all our friends out there for joining today. What we're going to talk about today is elevating IGA to where it belongs, or elevating it and putting it in its place, which is at the center of your business. We hope you enjoy your time here with us. So before I talk about Clear Skye and we get into ourselves, I just want to thank our partners for not only driving attendance to the webinar, but for believing in us and validating in us, evaluating our solution and determining that it's a good fit for their businesses. The people behind these logos are the people that take technology, wrap process around it, and deliver real world results. So we are very, very grateful to our partners. Thank you very, very much. So today what we're going to do, we're going to probably finish up even before the top of the hour. We want to give you an introduction to Clear Skye and why we think we're a better way to IGA. And we're very fortunate today that we have one of our customers, Todd Weidman, CISO for Landis+Gyr, has agreed to join us and has agreed to share with us his story, not only around Clear Skye, but around identity in general and the value that he's seeing in the solution. And then after Todd talks about the real world, we'll hand TJ Greisick, our Chief Product Officer, and he'll show you a demonstration of the product. So, you know, I don't know if you were as surprised as I was when I found out that there was an IGA tool built in the ServiceNow product. I was really quite shocked, and I was willing to bet that you also were. But I think you might even be more shocked to know that the company has been around since 2016. Our founders and the founding team had been working on this tool now for over 3.5 years. Along the way, they accumulated some excellent reference customers from which you heard in the introductory video. And now we're poised for growth. We're growing our leadership team. The team is comprised of industry veterans. We've all been in this space 15+ years, and we're excited about what's ahead of us. And we really, really hope that as we move forward, you'll join us, become a part of this journey, learn more about what we're doing, and help us in any way you can. So along the lines of that leadership team, I'd like to introduce you to our VP of Product Management, Mr. Paul Walker. Paul has been in the identity and access management space for over 20 years. He has the battle scars to prove it. We're looking to him to lead the way in regards to product direction, and we've asked him today to share with you his of the product, where it fits, and what its value position is. Paul?
Thanks for the introduction, Luis. Am I coming through okay?
You are. Hopefully I will.
Excellent. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you may be. Like, my name's Paul Walker, and I'm here as a veteran of really what feels like 300 years of identity and access management. And I think I speak for many of us with what I'm about to say. But before we get on to a better way to IGA, let's take a moment to remind ourselves what IGA is, what it should and shouldn't do. And let's look at some common experiences that people have had with IGA to date. IGA assists organizations on their digital journey as they transform their business. IGA should remove the friction from user journeys, user experiences, and it should reduce the risk that business is exposed to whilst increasing security. IGA shouldn't run slower than the business. As you open up new initiatives and new projects, you shouldn't have to wait for delays caused by IGA security to catch up. And IGA shouldn't introduce additional friction with the end user experience, but sadly, that's often the experience today. IGA shouldn't introduce additional integration challenges by being yet another system, another island, another silo to integrate. And finally, IGA shouldn't consume your whole IT budget. And more importantly, quite often what feels like your life sometimes. But again, sadly, that's the experience a lot of customers go through with IGA. Next slide, please, Louise. So over the last 10 years, I've experienced the explosive growth of both IGA and ServiceNow as an enterprise service delivery platform. This resulting gluing together of these two paradigms is a result of where we are today and that success. I've seen dozens, probably hundreds of customers try and integrate IGA with ServiceNow, spending precious time and budget. And at the end of the day, nobody's really satisfied with the end result, especially the end users. This is what the solutions looked like prior to Clear Skye. IGA needs ServiceNow and ServiceNow needs IGA. IGA is both security and efficiency. So ask yourself, how does running IGA workflow and storing your identity record and your identity data model off the business platform assist with the overall security, or indeed improve the user experience? I'm sure you'd agree, IGA is just another business function and a set of processes that require automation just like any other business process you have. Many IGA vendors claim to have some level of integration, but they don't address the needs of the core business. And you'll find these integrations free of charge on the ServiceNow App Store. They may do some ticketing, they may do some request integration, running workflow off the Now platform. It's simply not good enough. Next slide, please, Lewis. So Clear Skye is a fully featured IGA as a service delivered globally, built on and using the Now platform. It's a certified application custom by ServiceNow. Customers can request a trial directly from the store, and within a few hours they can start experiencing the next wave of IGA on their existing platform. This is not multi-tenant. Their data is not touching other people's data. This is not some kind of hosting service where you've got an IGA vendor, instead of focusing on their solution, providing hosting services. The level of effort to get it up and running is very small. Within a few hours, you can start ingesting data and providing value through IGA functionality such as access reviews, access requests, reporting, auditing and compliance, and the analytics, everything, the cornerstones of IGA. So, customers that have invested in ServiceNow as a platform, it's a real business hub of delivery for them. Sitting natively on that platform, Clear Skye IGAs, that they just run natively with the other business applications. Everything's on the platform. External IGA, it's bogus integration. It doesn't deliver what you need. Being adjacent to these applications on the Now platform like CMDB and SecOps, we can expose an IGA context to those apps, giving the users and the business a richer experience because it really is a workflow platform. I'll give you a couple of examples. During access requests, Clear Skye Workflow can easily interrogate the security incidents relating to the beneficiary, or whether or not the requested entitlement or the requested access to the computer is high risk by querying the CMDB. None of that workflow has to leave the ServiceNow systems. Decisions can be made using accurate, up-to-date information in real time without the need for synchronization and interruptions. The GRC and the SecOps examples you'll see later on as TJ Gryzek, our Chief Products Officer, will give you a demonstration of that unique integration. So I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I'd just like to go to the next slide, please, Lewis. So it's our goal here at Clear Skye to not only deliver a full-featured, postmodern, as Gartner call it, IGA solution to our customers, but also to double down on the Now platform integration use cases that are only possible with Clear Skye and Now combined as a single platform. The net result is our customers have increased security, lower risks, an additional business value from the adoption of ServiceNow and Clear Skye working together. Clear Skye elevates identity governance to the center of your business, but you don't have to believe me, Lewis, or any of us are here at Clear Skye. You can listen to what a real customer has to say. So with that, it's my great pleasure to welcome and pass over to Todd Weidman from Landis & Gyr. Over to you, Todd.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome, everybody. So yeah, I'm Todd Weidman. I work for Landis & Gyr. Landis & Gyr is a global company that is in the utility space and energy meters. So the meters that sit on the side of your house, we manufacture those. We've been in the company for over 100 years, and about 20 years ago, we turned into a tech company when meters became smart and they had technical components in them. They had networks that we had that used to connect all those together, and we have back-end systems that collect all the data and manage all that environment. So, but because we're a 100-year-old company, we're a very diverse company. We live in all over the world. We have very regionalized areas of the business. We have manufacturing across the world as well. So we're very large, very regionalized, but we're also a company that's migrating to a more centralized and globalized look and feel. As part of that work, there's a lot of things that we use today in IT and in security that we're simplifying. And one of those things that we're utilizing today is tickets and service management solutions. We have probably 4 or 5 ticketing systems today that IT and our customers have to utilize to get things done in the environment, which is obviously very painful and very costly. So as part of our goals, we're moving to ServiceNow for our ITSM environment. And as we've started moving to that, we also realized that we need to get a handle on our access. We have regulatory requirements, we have customer requirements because we're a cloud services provider, that we have to be able to ensure that we have proper management of user access, as well as things like access reviews, timely and properly terminating users when they leave the company. So because of all this, we started looking at identity management solutions. I've been in IT for about 30 years now and have gone through a number of implementations of identity management, some homegrown, some out of the box, and all have been painful. So I was not looking forward to another effort to implement an identity management solution. When I started looking at the solutions and looked at where we're going with IT in general, the ability to not only integrate the functionality of an asset or identity management solution, but also to have the same kind of look and feel was really one of the biggest drivers that I would say drove us to Clear Skye. I know you can integrate. We looked at integration, but being able to deliver to not only IT, but to the customers, the same place to go, where they want to look at a status of an IT ticket or request access to a workstation or get a workstation was a really high value for us. Because we're also integrating everything into ServiceNow, we're getting all that information within our CMDB, as well as we're using the security ops and the compliance modules. So that just actually extended the value for us. We could now tie things like exceptions. So if users want to get an exception, instead of going to yet another solution to request for an exception, they now go to the exact same system that they go to for their identity needs. So that was a really big driver. The second driver that I just want to call out is the ability to utilize my ServiceNow developers and my ServiceNow team to help build and enhance the Clear Skye solution. I was not looking forward to trying to hire niche players in the market for solutions that I know I've struggled with getting resources in the past. Being able to snag ServiceNow resources and being able to have them quickly understand Clear Skye and help facilitate what we need to do in the Clear Skye tool has been great as well. And that's the other thing that I would like to just call out, I think, has been valuable and really made the decision for us to move to Clear Skye for this space. So I hope that was helpful. I'll turn it back over to Clear Skye.
Todd, thank you so much for that. In your experience, as you look at this solution versus the other ones that you've worked with, do you see yourself developing use cases that potentially you wouldn't have developed on a different platform?
Yes, I think two things with that. One is that there's definitely use cases that I would want to do that I just wouldn't even tackle because I know the complexity and what we would have to do for the integration to get those things to work. I would also say that in working with the Clear Skye team, that we've come up with ideas that we didn't even think about, that I wouldn't even have thought about from an integration perspective. But now that we have access to some of the data within ServiceNow, that we're like, oh, you know what, we could use that now and actually, facilitate a user access review if we see a security incident on a user and things like that. We never would have probably thought of that until we saw what the integration pieces were.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for being our customer, for believing in us early on, for your participation. I mean, we can theorize about value all day long. And I always say, even though I've been in this space 15 years, for me, it's really about what are customers really doing. And the fact that your team in a matter of months has been able to take this tool and make it their own, I just think it's really startling. And thank you again, Todd, for everything. All right. So, with Todd's real world examples, what we want to do is we want to show you some of the things he described through a demo. Of course, we could show a traditional IGA demonstration where we access requests, provisioning, review, show how the workflow works. All of that is absolutely in the product. It's core to it. ServiceNow delivers those capabilities to us that we built around. But what we really want to do right now is show you what we believe is the future of IGA. Tell you a little bit about these better together stories that Todd touched on. So I think you'll be seeing some things that you haven't seen in a typical demo. And with that, I'll hand over to my dear friend, TJ Gryzik. TJ?
Thank you. So my name is TJ Gryzik, and I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Clear Skye and one of the founders. Our vision since the founding of Clear Skye has always been to make security and compliance easier, making it more simple for the end user and working for the business, enabling the business to be secure, but also to not slow things down. So what I'm going to take you through is a general use case that we see often as we look at terminology and standards around least privilege. One of the big hurdles around least privilege is the level of effort around managing security and getting people the access when they need it, and ensuring that when we give them that access, that there's a full cycle and life cycle around that access to evaluate and to review. So I'm going to take you through that. We're going to look at several different personas. We're going to look at a requester from the ServiceNow portal perspective. We're going to look at a manager and some of the interactions that we'll have there. And then finally, we'll take a look at the compliance team and how we can seamlessly sort of involve the compliance team without it being a showstopper or a bottleneck within these processes. So an example we see often is the idea that, someone gets sick, someone can't make it into the office, and they may be a primary contact for a customer or a resource. And so you'll get an email one day where Paul is out of the office and he asks for you to support company ABC. Now, this may not be my traditional job, so I don't have access to that customer, which is how it should be. We shouldn't just open up the entire company to all of our customers' access. It's the quickest way to get breached. So at this point, I don't have the access, and Paul is asking that I support them. He's not in the office. He can't give me a download. He can't grant me access. He's feeling sick. He's in bed, or God forbid, in the hospital. And so I get this email, and I can go to my ServiceNow portal. Traditionally, this is where you would go for all interactions with IT. This is really the home for organizations that leverage ServiceNow. You have things where you can request new hardware, new assets, help, document production. All of that could be done within the request something component of the portal. You can also look up knowledge base, right? So keeping your employees informed or your organization informed about how procedures are followed or how specific companies need to be managed and the relationships around those procedures for logging into those systems or interacting with those companies. Or if you're having trouble, you come here to get help. Many of you on the call, I'm sure, are familiar with ServiceNow as an ITSM tool or an incident solution. And so this is where people can come to request help. And this is just the beginning. You know, ServiceNow is moving into markets like CSM or customer service management, HR, IT. Almost every department within the business has business workflows within ServiceNow. So the more you leverage the ServiceNow platform, the more value you get out of interacting between and breaking down those silos. So it only made sense, you know, coming from a ServiceNow background, that you're already interacting with this portal. Why go to a different place when it comes to requesting access? And as you can see here, we can go ahead and select request access directly from that portal. Once I select that, I can be brought to our catalog. This is the same catalog that end users are going to request help, going to request a new laptop, you know, submitting requests for security incidents. It's a very familiar interface to them. They can use searching or lookup capabilities. We can provide out-of-box forms or request systems that people can ask for, things like software requests, where, you know, specifically focuses on software. We could do things like requesting new accounts, managing entitlements, managing the relationships to identities, including onboarding with attribute-based provisioning, et cetera, all from this single portal. In this scenario, I created a new catalog item that is specific to a single customer that we're supporting. And the reason I did this is because the one-stop shop for access doesn't provide you context. It allows you to shop and find the access you're looking for and request that access. But once you get that access, what do? You've never supported this customer before. What's going on at that customer? What projects are happening? Paul's in the hospital. I'm not going to call him and get a debrief. And nothing's worse from a customer's perspective that your service provider has deja vu, or not deja vu, forgets who you are, amnesia. It almost seems like every time you reach out to them, they ask you the same questions. They don't know who you are. They don't know what's going on. And you waste so much time having to repeat yourself or having to get this person up to speed. And it's almost a chore on the customer. So it's important that we start looking at access and enabling our businesses in a way that's beyond just the access itself. So here you can see I can look up company record. I can look up our contracts, our billing, any notes that may have been placed against it, like don't ask this question or don't say this. We can look up knowledge base, policies, how we interact with this user, what are the procedures, and all of this is available in the ServiceNow platform today. And I can also look at if anything's going on. Are there any Sev1 incidents? Are there any current projects or upcoming meetings that I need to attend while Paul's out of the office? So by being able to create these forms and catalog items and embed your access components into it, you are more prepared to support your customers or support your end users, depending on what type of access you're looking for. Maybe you're connecting to servers, et cetera. Depending on your role, this may be a different use case. But being able to really tailor these to the requirements and the needs you have. Then I can go through the process of requesting that access. And depending on what I'm doing, that access may be different. You know, maybe I want to request billing. Well, that doesn't really make sense if I'm just supporting a customer. And I can see here that this is actually going to grant me access to financial systems and customer account information. And that isn't going to help at all in supporting this customer while Paul is out. And you have other options like subscription management and understanding that this is giving you access to a portal or a financial system or the customer's roadmap to facilitate conversations around renewals and really drive the value for that customer. In this case, we're really providing a technical support role. Paul is out and I am going to sit in and ensure that this customer is you know, being managed and we're taking care of that customer and we're covering all their bases. So I can always select the level 1, which is going to give me that basic details. I'll understand if they're reaching out for anything, customer requests, knowledge base, or maybe something comes up where I need a higher level of escalation. So here I can look at those basic things, but I can also grab access to their instance and view the logs and do some of those basic troubleshooting steps. Or maybe I found what the issue was and I need to go all the way up to level 3, which then starts to grant me privileged access within that customer system. So in this case, just to go through the example of what happens when you request too much access, I'm going to go with that level 3. And in this case, I need to provide a business justification. Why am I requesting this access? And I can say, Paul is out of the office. He asks that I support the customer. And all of this is extremely familiar. We could change the questions we ask. We can drive different decisions. We can really tailor this to meet the needs of your organization. Or your customer ServiceNow developers can do these same things because we're on that same platform, because we share that common foundation. So it's very easy to configure. From here, I can go ahead and submit that request. And the second I submit it, we start to see the power of Clear Skye and the rest of the platform. we start to evaluate processes outside of the IGA. It's not enough anymore to ask the manager if they can request access, because most times within an organization, especially as it becomes much larger, who knows if that manager is going to know or even is qualified to accept the risk of violating a control or a compliance. So here you can see we are able to do peer group analysis. We're able to say, hey, you know, the person with the title product guy or department leadership or San Francisco office, nobody else who meets this profile actually has this access, letting someone know that it isn't a standard request that this person's making. And this is sort of standard for IGA solutions. You see this in many of the main leaders in IGA. But I think where we can see the value go even further is around the idea of interacting with the compliance frameworks or security operations or software asset management, any of the other processes that are being run within ServiceNow. We can take the configurations and the rules and those things and apply those to our access in IGA. So instead of having IGA replicate all of these rules and then replicate them again in your compliance framework, we're using the same rules from the compliance database to determine if this is compliant or not. You can see here that we're failing 2 controls based on this request, and this is very proactive, whereas most compliance frameworks are reactive. So we're telling you before you make the decision, this is the impact of your decision. I could see that level 3 customer access outside of customer support. I could see access to customer that is not the customer relationship manager. These are risks that we should look out for because maybe we have a policy or a contract that dictates we won't do these things. Then we go ahead and initiate the approval. And in this case, I've configured it to be myself, just to illustrate that you can't approve your own access and that it will escalate up and ensure that separation of duties are being managed. In this case, it'll send it to my manager, who's Bernadette. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is shift over to Bernadette's view and take a look at what she sees from her portal within ServiceNow. So here we are logged in as Bernadette, and you can see that on this same portal where she would go to request access, perform change management approvals, perform approvals for new software or expensive assets or expenses depending on how much they're using ServiceNow. It's the exact same approval, exact same interface, exact same queue. They don't have to go to multiple systems. They don't have to track multiple web pages. They can see everything from a single place, making compliance easy for them. And from here, I could either approve it right away, or I could go ahead and dig into the details of what's going on. I can open up that access request and see those same level of details and make an educated or informed decision based on whether this person should have the access. Because Bernadette works in a satellite office. She probably doesn't even know what GRC is, but it's still important that we're evaluating that risk. So presenting it in a way that's digestible for her, that she doesn't have access to all of our compliance controls and frameworks, allows her to make an informed decision about approving the access. In this case, she knows that, Paul is out of office and he asked that I support the customer. That's the justification for requesting this access. But Bernadette wants a little bit more evidence than that. She wants to know, well, attach the email. So here she could come in and just communicate back and forth with the requester. So please attach the email. And we can go ahead and send that. And just switching back over to the requester, you can see that in real time, we're updating the different conversations that are happening. From here, TJ can go ahead and say, okay, I have the email here. I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop it into the attachments. And that becomes available within the chain of evidence that is occurring. You have the full conversation. And if I just refresh this screen, you can see that the Paul approval email is here. So she can go ahead and click in. She can open up that email and read the details to validate what's being said as a justification is a true justification. I could go ahead and close that and say, everything looks good. And then from there, I can go ahead and send and just click the approve button and move the process along. From TJ, he sees the approval notice. He knows that things are moving along. He's continually updated throughout the process. And this request starts to go through the Clear Skye process. It's reaching out to external systems. It's provisioning access, whether that's to cloud systems like Office 365 or on-prem solutions. Manual tasks can be sent out. And all of this is happening through a business role that defined what access makes up what a support analyst level 3 is. And from here, I can track the request with all of my other activities. We can see that that's in automated activities. At this point, those familiar with ServiceNow are probably saying, hey, this looks a lot like ServiceNow. It's because it is, because we've brought IGA into the ServiceNow platform. We can provision different entitlements and access. We can see that, 3 of these were provisioned automatically. We can see that manual activities is still sitting, waiting to be provisioned. So it got routed to the correct group. They can go ahead and look and see what happened and complete the task at that point. All of these are driven by the workflows that you're already familiar with. So those group analysis I did, the compliance check I did, even further, if we wanted to reach in and say, hey, is this high risk access TJ's asking for? Let's check and see if TJ has any affected security incidents within the SecOp utility. And within one of these activities, I can provide very rich feedback or information attached to that ticket. I can escalate to not only the security team, but the individual security analyst who's working on the ticket, the security incident that has TJ affected. Maybe it's just a lost phone, or maybe it's something more serious, like a compromised account. And in that case, we don't want to continue to give that bad actor more access to our systems. And this allows someone to make a decision who's aware of what's happening in the background. So really being able to tie in all of these other business processes, breaking down those silos, and being able to make informed decisions or auto routing and making decisions automatically through playbooks is really going to allow you to drive IGA at the speed of the business. So at that point, the activities are completed. I just simulated a manual close because I didn't expect it to pop up, but here we are. We've completed our request. We've moved into post. TJ has the access he needs. Someone has completed all of those activities. They have granted them access, and he can now go on to support customer ADC. Now that's usually where the story ends. Usually at that point, you go ahead and forget about it. TJ supports it for the week. Paul comes back and business as usual. But it doesn't mean that TJ still doesn't have the access he needs. And usually this story picks back up 90 days from now. You would expect that in 90 days, an access review will happen, a quarterly review will happen. Maybe it'll be picked up on the tail end of a compliance check, which is happening on a quarterly basis. But for those 3 months, TJ is going to have access to a customer that puts us into a violation finding. And so to mitigate that, we are tied into the compliance framework. So the second that access has been granted, the second that we have over-provisioned or violated a compliance finding against our GRC database, and that access and that risk has been accepted and the decision has been made and provisioned, we can now jump over and automatically interact with the compliance department. They have GRC within ServiceNow, like you heard Todd talk about in Landis Gear. They're tracking against all of their compliance frameworks, their PCI, ISO, GDPR, HIPAA. Depending on your organization, you may have dozens of compliance frameworks with thousands of controls that you need to monitor. Often these are done manually. People are reaching out to subject matter experts. They need to go in to determine why things have failed compliance. Usually these are done reactively through an audit. This will happen every 90 days or so, and is just a large project every quarter to manage. Now, we didn't have to wait for any of that stuff. The second that we found that someone had accepted a compliance activity that had a violation within it, it generates an issue that's available attached to your compliance framework. I can go ahead and select that new issue as a compliance officer, and I have all the details that you would expect to have within the issue itself. I don't have to go do discovery. I don't have to analyze. I can see exactly that it's a membership ad where TJ got technical support level 3 access. I can see the entity that's impacted. I know right away whether ABC Co, whether it's okay that we have a compliance finding for a short period of time. I can see exactly which controls, risks, and regulatory control frameworks that I may be breaching, any additional details, and even a recommendation about how to resolve this. So that if you have a compliance officer leave or you're expanding the team, there's no loss in institutional knowledge. You can easily sort of bring new people in and they know exactly what the procedures are to do to manage this issue within the GRC application. And we take it a step further. So once you've analyzed an issue, a compliance issue, it then comes down to responding and how we want to respond to that issue. So just let me reiterate that I'm sitting inside ServiceNow's GRC right now. And this is a process that every compliance department needs to follow. and I could go ahead and specify response. I can accept it, right? Maybe TJ is going to join the customer support team. Maybe this is something we're okay with. Maybe we accept the risk until a future audit. We could go ahead and generate this and a policy exception will be generated. Or I could decide that I want to remediate this right away. And within that, I can define Clear Skye actions of remediating a Clear Skye issue. I can also investigate further. I sort of skipped over this, but I want to point out that I don't have to go to another system. I can determine that whole conversation that was had. I can pull email information. I can look at the details and what decisions were made within the access request within the same system. I don't have to slow down and go talk to someone. And then once I've done that discovery, once I've analyzed the incident, once I've determined that it's a valid business reason, I can then remediate. So forgive me for skipping over that. I think it's an important stage. From there, I can decide to disable access. Maybe this is a compliance finding where someone got access to intellectual property or sensitive data that they shouldn't have. Maybe it wasn't a customer support call. I can revoke it right away. I don't have to go reach out to an SME. I don't have to go interact with other individuals. I can do it as fast as possible. I can remediate compliance issues quickly. Or maybe I did the investigation. I saw that there was a valid business case. Then in this case, it's all about follow-up and closing the cycle. We know this is a compliance finding, and we know there's a valid business reason for TJ to be managing Paul's client. But as soon as Paul gets back, we want Paul to revoke that access to come back into compliance. And here we can initiate those types of activities. So for example, I can say expiration or explanation. This looks valid. Please remove access when Paul comes back. And then I can go ahead and update the request. Now, without having to build an external integration, without having to do different details or things like that, I have automatically initiated a manager review, which will then be sent to Bernadette, and she can view that review from her portal. So within a few seconds, we should see that there's a policy violation here already. Didn't have to go anywhere. And she can go ahead and review the access. We can see that it's tied to a compliance violation. We can see the ticket. We can see who the assigned analyst is if I needed to provide additional details or ask questions. And I can see the user who's impacted. Now I had just approved this. Maybe I wait till Paul gets back. It can sit in my queue. We can do reminders, SLAs, workflow escalations to say, okay, well, if there's a compliance violation, they cannot have that active for more than 2 weeks. If they don't complete it and say that this needs to be removed or an exception needs to be created, we can automatically use ServiceNow's workflow to then say things like, let's disable the access automatically after 2 weeks. And that could be configured also within that compliance issue that you saw. So we could drive a lot of the behavior of how this works off of the decisions that are being made, and you have full flexibility over that. So from here, I can go ahead and disable this access. No, he shouldn't have that technical support anymore. Go ahead and complete my review. And at this stage, we have gone full cycle. I've requested access as a valid business reason. I collected all the evidence back and forth from my manager. I was able to attach all that. I was able to provision that access automatically. In the case where it wasn't provisioned automatically, I was able to send tasks to the responsible groups. Once all of that was provisioned, I was then able to initiate a compliance review of the issue because there was a compliance finding using the compliance team's own configurations around what is compliant and what is not. And then throughout all that, I allowed the compliance person not to just reach out or not to have to go on a discovery session that may take 2 or 3 days to figure out what happened. He was able within a few minutes to have the context, the record of what happened, the history, and make a decision based on all that information. And then finally, we were able to allow the end user to be able to request the deprovisioning of that access and completing that request. And all of this was able to happen on the same platform. All of this was able to interact with each other and play together. And this is just one example of better together. This is the GRC and IGA. We have use cases around security operations, ITSM, software asset management. And as ServiceNow grows and as you grow with it, the more value that you can add context and security and really put identity at the center of the business. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, TJ. I thought that was awesome, man. A couple highlights for me was in the beginning, seemed like we go a long way to eliminating the rubber stamp problem where managers are just, blindly approving without context. And I also love the idea that, you're inside GRC and you're manipulating and using IGA data. And that's, to me, was the real mind-opening aspect of this, was that once we get on the platform, everything seems like one product, and it's just so exciting, the potential. So our friends have asked us a few questions here. I have a list of them. I'd like to invite all the panelists, to, if appropriate, answer, including you, Todd, if there's anything you'd like to add. But the first one, TJ, since you've been speaking, I'll direct at you. It comes from Michelle. Do I need to own ServiceNow to use your product?
You do. You do need a ServiceNow subscription, but it can be any subscription within ServiceNow's base model, ITSM, IGA, and they work together from there. So as long as you have the platform ServiceNow, you can use our product along with it.
Thank you, TJ. We have another question. I think you answered in the demos regarding integration with GRC module. I'll take the opportunity here, if Todd's still with us and can come off mute. Todd, have you, in your environment, done any GRC integration?
The GRC integration that we started with is the exception pieces. So it's around if there's a request that comes in for that comes through Clear Skye that would initiate an exception requirement, then we are facilitating that in GRC.
Thank you, Todd. TJ, another question about the product. How does Clear Skye capture data from target systems? How is out-of-band change detected?
Absolutely. So today we have bidirectional integrations, leveraging base methods of integration along with a series of out-of-box integrations. So on a base level, we leverage all of the existing ServiceNow channel for communication to internal networks and cloud. So for example, we can execute REST API, SOAP API, PowerShell, SSH, Java clients, and more. So we could cover all of those. And then we have out-of-box integrations for some of the top: Active Directory, Office 365, Azure AD, and the list goes on. So we can leverage those to do imports on a regular basis and sync the data from those target systems. And we've built a framework that is intelligent with IGA in mind. We can build new integrations and I'm saying we, but I mean our partners, our customers, people who have built integrations on ServiceNow before. It'll be a very seamless transition of using those APIs and being familiar with all the pieces involved. So hopefully that answers.
Thank you, TJ. Another question here from a dear friend. Shout out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Is all access requested provisioned using roles? Can you talk a little bit about roles, TJ?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer is no, it's not all roles. So we support the concept of entitlement level provisioning. Not only can we provision to those entitlements or deprovision, we can also create new entitlements within the source system, security groups, distribution lists. And then the next layer up is the role abstraction. So we can use roles or groupings of entitlements and wrap process around those. And something I'm really excited for is really taking it a step further into an application catalog and a business application structure. So you can take a grouping of entitlements and roles and present that in a way that means the most to the organization. So really moving away from the technical lower level entitlements, although we support that, and growing into business focused entitlements or requests that can be made.
Thanks, TJ. We have a question from Florence around licensing, which I'll take myself. How does licensing work for Clear Skye? Are the different IGA functionalities licensed separately? Is the integration connector with ServiceNow licensed separately? So Clear Skye is licensed by user. Our mission in life is to make security simple. And we have one SKU, and it's the whole thing. I know that, in the market right now, people are licensing different modules for different things. Ours is one big product. You get all of the functionality and more than what you saw right now. There is no integration or connector with ServiceNow. We are built natively inside the platform, and that's really, one of our taglines, that being native is better than being integrated. And that's, there's nothing to maintain. You saw TJ manipulating IGA information from GRC. We think that the more ServiceNow products that are running on the platform, the more we can do together. This better together story that Service tells is something we believe wholeheartedly in, and we're just now starting to see the potential. That answers that question. We have a question here. Is entitlement information stored in a way that can be accessed by knowledge base and service catalog, or do we have to do different calls to first check Clear Skye? Case, I only want users with access to an application to see the knowledge to it, TJ.
Absolutely. So we can manage ServiceNow's security groups and their security model also. So that would allow us to manage the groups that are associated with those knowledge bases and drive that value or that use case that you're discussing, while still wrapping the compliance and components, whether that's policy provisioning, where you want to define departments and who should have access to those and changes to employees, or whether it's just direct requests with approval. We can go ahead and manage those elements of the internal ServiceNow platform also.
Thank you, TJ. The next question revolves around, an operator making configuration changes, manipulating the UI, changing the workflows, and what impact that has on supportability, TJ.
So my background is as a ServiceNow developer. I started in-house, and nothing is worse than being told you could do whatever you want and then being told that you're no longer supported. And that has gone into the design and architecture of the application. There are components of the application that are extensible, and there are components that are locked down. And by doing that, we open up sandbox areas within, whether it's as tied to your processes and workflow, or whether it's tied to the way that the integrations are extended. And the way that we've designed it is in a way that the areas that are locked down are the ones we will be changing over time, and the ones that are open and allow you to make the configurations and really make the IGA solution yours will be yours for the end of time. So by going about it in that design, it really allows you to do the things that you want. So some of that compliance checks and the workflow that I showed you are in one of those stages, pre-processing. So before any of the requests, you need to perform organizational specific workflow, and on the tail end, post-processing. So we've done this in a way to allow for the flexibility and the extension of the application while maintaining the upgradability.
Thank you, TJ. I'm going to throw this one to Paul. Mr. Walker, can you recap briefly, the advantages over being natively in the platform versus the integrations that are commonly available on the market?
Well, absolutely, Luis. I mean, ServiceNow's got a bunch of REST APIs. We all know that. And, a developer can write those REST APIs. But the benefit of being on the platform is it's just really one big schema. If anybody with the database knowledge out there would know what I mean by a schema. We can dot walk. So we have dot notation in the scripting. We can dot walk across schemas, across applications. So just like you could dot walk in like another IGA product you may have used, we can dot walk across the whole of the schema. So we don't have to do REST calls. We don't have to wait for that data to be processed. We don't have to support that integration between those different systems, because at the end of the day, you can integrate, but there is a cost of ownership. And if the people you've found, if you're lucky enough to find those people that know that IGA tool to write to that REST API, when you do maintenance, you're going to have to go back and maybe wait a long time to get them again, and then maintain any changes to that REST API. So it's just common sense, really, Luis. But if anybody needs more proof, then let's do a workshop together and we can show you. Back to you.
Thank you, Paul. We have a question here from Richard Bird, our friend at Ping. Shout out to all the Ping folks. Saw Andre Durand on CNBC. That was quite a treat. TJ, is the certification control obligation made easier using Clear Skye? Can it be reduced in duration from weeks and months to something shorter and easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's completely flexible of how you scope and schedule your access campaigns. You can reduce and tie escalation workflows to encourage individuals to complete their reviews earlier. One of the examples that stands out the most is we have a customer who actually, when they started implementing, said, well, we want to give them up until the due date to complete the review with several reminders as part of that. And 24 hours before the due date, you need to send an email to them and their manager that says if they don't complete the review, revoke all access contained within the review. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I don't want to be responsible for stripping people's access and causing a problem. And the first time we implemented it, it did strip people's access and people got mad. But those same people completed their review within 2 days the next time. So there are ways that you can play with the analytics and engine around the access review campaigns themselves and determine who the offset or the people who are taking the longest, and sort of use intelligent analytics around those campaigns to determine what behaviors you want to change. And then you can update the workflows to align with what works for your organization. So I think it does make it easier. It's also a single interface. You're used to being here already. You're interacting with it. You're receiving emails from ServiceNow almost every day. So some of the other soft components of being on the same platform and it just being available to you in your portal makes it easier for people to not forget about it or not have it be something that they have to go out of band for. So I think all of those different areas of it make the access review campaigns easier, flexibility, visibility, and then, being integrated or being on the same platform.
Thank you, TJ. I want to comment here. Michelle, she said, well, being integrated in ServiceNow is also a clear limitation if I use Remedy or some other tool. And that's absolutely the case, right? But, when I first joined Clear Skye, I thought we had a better IGA tool, and I know we do. And that has to do with no code, low code, the offering, what the platform adds to us. And so you might evaluate us just on a standalone capability, and you might come to the conclusion that we are better than other cloud-based products out there and even on-premise tools out there. Then what you would do is you would buy very base licenses for ServiceNow in order to get us up and running. And then we could do your typical integration to Remedy or to Heat. So you can use this. Of course, if you are ServiceNow, and the more investment and the more strategic ServiceNow is, the more valuable the solution.
Can I add to that? I think
Sure.
It's also important to mention, the cost savings around having your IGA platform on your ITSM platform. And it might be a great opportunity to move to ServiceNow as an ITSM platform and see that you save not only on your IGA side of things, but together with ITSM and IGA on the same platform. It may come in at a lower cost over time.
I see that too, right? For companies that are considering migrating off of an old ITSM tool, this could be enough value to push them over the edge and get them moving in parallel towards that. And I remember when Todd and I were first talking about Clear Skye, he felt that the Clear Skye product would add value or perceived value that the business had around ServiceNow. And TJ, before I started with you, we actually had a customer that bought ServiceNow for Clear Skye. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that conversation happen more and more as you start to see things play together, as you see a unified portal and you see the capabilities of extension and really picking more than just an ITSM tool, but a platform that allows you to grow and will allow you to continue to see value for years to come in many different areas of the business.
So thank you, TJ. I think, we tried to go through all of the questions that we had sequentially. We appreciate all of them. Really want to thank Todd for his participation. It's not easy to get those approvals and to participate in this way. We're truly grateful. Really want to thank the partners again, all the people that participated and watched with us for your kind attention. And I want to say, if you're interested and you'd like to take a next step, may I suggest that you go to clearskye.com/workshop or email us or go to LinkedIn, let us know. And what we would recommend is a discovery session. Let's uncover your requirements and objectives. We'll let you know specifically, honestly, transparently where we're a good fit or where we might not be a good fit, and give you estimates, right? Services estimates, duration, how we would phase it if we were you, product estimates, and give you something that you know what you're looking at, you know the value proposition, and you can socialize that value proposition internally. So thank you very much. We'll give you 3 minutes back. We very much appreciate it. Have a great day.